Welcome back to another episode of the Big J Little J Show. Today we'll recap the week that it was for Duke. They're 2-0 with wins against Texas and Western Carolina. We'll talk about things that we saw, what we liked, what we didn't like. And then Duke plays at West Point on Tuesday night. We're recording on Monday, so this will be out probably Monday night, early Tuesday morning. And we'll talk about that a little bit as I'll have a personal story about that. But before we get started, word from our sponsors, Legacy Safe. Legacy Safe is a secure cloud-based platform for individuals, couples, and families tailored for organizing personal account information, legal documents, assets, and more. It is designed to provide individuals with reassurance that their affairs will be managed effectively once they have passed. Legacy Safe is a website that gives you a platform to have all of your affairs in order. Again, the website is legacysafe.info. That is legacysafe.info. Are you looking to buy or sell a home in North Carolina, whether you're moving across town or across the state? Jacob Mann with eXp Realty is here to help make your real estate journey smooth, strategic, and stress-free. From first-time buyers to seasoned investors, he knows North Carolina and how to get results. Connect with Jacob today at 336-266-9088 or on Instagram at the.real.estate.man with two N's. And let's make your next move the best one yet. All right, Connor, keep nodding over there every time I do the possibly buying a home. So that's going to be coming shortly after this season. But before we dive into things, you're a busy man. You were in Charlottesville covering Wake Forest football. Obviously, 2 weeks ago it was Duke Clemson. You're going to Durham for Duke football and basketball. You've been all over the map, basically.
Yeah, it makes me think my theme song for November should be "I've been everywhere, man. I've been everywhere." Yeah, look, this is a labor of love. It is very much not a labor of lucrative pay. That's for sure. But once you've driven to New Orleans for a Final Four, actually have the New Orleans Final Four quarter zip on. And once you've driven to Omaha for CWS, 3 hours down, 3 hours back from Clemson, 3 hours up to Charlottesville, 3 hours back from UVA, doesn't seem all that bad. So I got a firsthand look at Duke's next football opponent, which we can talk about later this week. I saw Duke in Charlotte. That was the easiest of my nights for traveling on Tuesday night. And then on the way up to Charlottesville, listened to it was John Roth and Chris Edwards on the call for Duke's radio broadcast. So dial that up on the phone, listen to it on the way up. Makes for easy drive when you're listening to a basketball game. So nice little ride.
Look, you've been everywhere. Obviously, when we talk about this preview, obviously you're at Duke, Texas. I was at Duke, Western Carolina because you were in Charlottesville Saturday. So when we talk about that, I'll get you up to date of what I saw in Duke, Western Carolina.
I've seen a highlight of Malik Brown throwing a one-handed pass that traveled about 40 feet. I've seen a couple dunks. I've seen a oop. I feel like the guy that I've seen the least amount of highlights from is the guy who had 25. So that must have been a pretty casual 25 for Cam Boozer.
Yeah, I mean, we'll get right into it. Like, I want to talk about what has happened last week, what has stood out, and the first person is Cam Boozer. Obviously, he is going to be the headline when you talk about Duke basketball this season. Evan Mia has Duke number 1 in his power ranking, so I just told him, like, hey, let's just keep it. I don't look at KenPom. I don't look at anybody else. We're going to look at Evan Mia for the rest of the season until Duke drops from number 1 to number 2. And Cam Boozer is the reason because of that. And, yeah, he had like 25, and I don't have it in front of me. Did he have a double-double?
No, I think he came up a little short. I think maybe 25, 8 and 4, 25, 8 and 5, maybe something like that.
Yeah, 25, 8 and 5 in 23 minutes. And it was exactly what you thought it was going to be. Duke didn't hit any outside shots early. I think they were 3 of 17 from 3 in the first half. And then second half, they shot fewer and got better looks and had a higher percentage. And I swear this is counting the 2 exhibitions. There's 4 games this year where Duke has shot a lot and bad from 3 in the first half, and they cut the shot attempts from 3 kind of in half in the second half, and they shot about 45% in the second half. It's just funny how that works, but Shire touched on that in the post game, just saying, like, yeah, we're settling for too many threes, and he said there's good threes and bad threes, which obviously I understand. And Duke definitely got those in the second half. But point guard play is something I highlighted in the film breakdown that I talked about. So you guys check that out on the YouTube as well. Caden Boozer came right off the bench. In his 4 minutes, I wrote it down in my notes. He had 4 points, 2 rebounds, and 2 assists in 4 minutes. Like, that is instant production and everywhere you want to get that production. And one of his assists was after a make. He pitched it ahead to Nick Kaminian, who had a corner three 4 seconds into a shot clock. And he did the same thing in the second half off a make. He passed it to Malik Brown, who finished a layup. And those are just the intangibles that Caden Boozer brings to the table for this Duke team. Something that Duke hasn't had at the point guard position in a few years, I'd say. Like, it did remind me of a Jones brother of just, hey, on a make, let's be aggressive and then pitch ahead and kind of make a high difficulty, not high difficulty, but what should be high difficulty, you make it lower, easier because you're getting the right angle to pitch over top like he threw to Malik Brown. And he had an outstanding floor game and overall game. He hit catch and shoot 3, which you and I talked about when I was watching the Texas film breakdown, that Texas was letting him live in the corner to be a catch and shoot guy. If he can do that for Duke, kind of like the Sion James role where, it looked a little weird. Sion James's shot looked weird when we first saw it, but since it kept going in, that turns from, oh, that looks weird to, oh, that's automatic. And Caden Boozer can be the same way. It's like, oh, looks a little funky, but when you shoot 50% on catch and shoots, then you know what? It looks fine.
Yeah, that's the thing about the catch and shoots. Like, the Duke has so many guys that can draw attention elsewhere. Like, you're not helping off of Isaiah Evans, especially when he's hot. You're not helping off of Darren Harris if he's got the quick release and he's hit a couple. So it means somebody's going to be open, or you're just playing one-on-one against Cam Boozer, and Duke feels really good about doing that against everybody they're going to play, at least for the next month or two.
Yeah.
Or maybe the podcast is not a good place to be trying to think of other fours for like Michigan State and Florida, and I guess Thomas Houck is in there for Florida, but
you're good. Nobody's going to if anybody actually is this, it's fine. We're recording kind of blindly at Monday at 5:30 here for you because Connor has a lot on his plate. So don't worry. We're not going to worry about that.
I'm trying to figure out why one Duke team can't play defense when they were really good at playing defense last year. And we can talk about how John Shire's MO is to teach defense first when he gets these guys on campus, and they'll figure out the offense by January.
Yeah, and Duke scored 95 points in this game, and again, they didn't shoot the ball well from 3, so it's kind of funny that the offense. It was basically what Florida was their first game, where they scored 104 points and they shot 19% from 3. Duke shot 31%, so a lot better than 19. But just goes to show this type of opponent, it was bound to happen to win by 40 against the inferior opponent, but. They'll be fine.
You're playing 13 non-conference games. They can't all be marquee. You can't schedule yourself into oblivion and crush your team in November.
Oh, my God. John Shire needs to be allowed to sleep at least a couple nights a year. Like, I cannot imagine. Like, look, no offense to Western Carolina and then, like in West Point, Indiana State. Like, those are nights that John Shire is going to at least have like 6 hours of sleep in the season, which is equivalent to like 10 for a coach. Whereas when Florida comes to town, he's probably going to have 3, and then Arkansas 3. So he's allowed to double up his sleep by, Western Carolina's tomorrow. Okay, I'm going to sleep for like 6 hours. Maybe go to sleep watching The Office. Like, just relax. So you deserve that.
Who do you think the first coach is that's going to be sponsored by Celsius?
Ooh, that's a great question. The first coach. I'd tell you the first one that's going to be sponsored by a fast food joint, Will Wade. For Celsius,
I just had cookout 2 hours ago, so no comment here.
He probably did too. Celsius is a great question. God, I want to give you like an off the wall like coach. I can see like Mick Cronin. Pitino, actually Mick Cronin, like to really get his anger going, where he already hates his team after the first game of the season. They're 2-0, and he hates his damn team. I can see him just cranking out a couple of Celsius before a game. Shire, I don't know what his beverage of choice is, or he's definitely he's a coffee guy. He's definitely, he comes off as a coffee guy, not a Celsius.
It's very few 5-hour energy guys, so I don't know who that would be.
Yeah, that's only Connor. People that don't know, Connor is the 5-hour energy. I'm the Celsius, but I'm also coffee at the same time. So, I like to go I go coffee in the morning, Celsius in the afternoon. I try. My mom's worried about me. She should be, but for a different reason. So the Celsius and the coffee, great mix for me. But wasn't for that, we would not be having this podcast. I'll tell you that much. With everything we have on our plates, we should be sponsored by Celsius or 5-hour energy with what we have to do.
I've tried to get the 5-hour energy sponsorship. They don't seem to be in the market for overworked sports journalists.
Connor, I want to talk about one guy on
energy drinks.
Well, yeah, not energy drinks, but Pat Gongba. I want to talk about him for a little bit. In 2 games, 10 points per game, 62% from the field, 5.5 rebounds, in 23 minutes. Really effective, really efficient. And obviously, Western Carolina, he played limited minutes, 22, because of the opponent. But what scares me about him and Malik, though Malik had 10 points in this game, question mark for me is, can the fives be on the court against good teams? Because they both fouled out with 5 minutes to go roughly against Texas, and that's Texas. And Texas, maybe they will be a bubble team. Who knows? It's Sean Miller's first year. I don't know. But
I was very much not impressed with them.
I was being I was being kind, but
it's nice of you.
With Malik Brown, I give him the benefit of the doubt because, like Shire said, he hasn't played basketball in months. With Pat Gongba, he always kind of flirted with foul trouble last year when his minutes started getting more and more, and then his first game as a starter fouls out. That is something that concerns me because though I like Cam Boozer playing some 5 for Duke, I don't like it when it has to be in abundance because your starting 5 is always in foul trouble. Though it's 1 out of 2 games, that's just something I'm keeping an eye on to where, it's not going to give me the answer this week as Duke plays West Point and Indiana State, right? That's the 2 games.
Yep.
So they're big. Who's the first matchup again? The first big matchup. Is it Texas?
I'm not even sure. I'm not even sure who Kansas has in its front court. I know they have Darren Peterson, and I think
they have a physical center though. Like he's not going to.
Oh yeah, Duke legend Flory Badunga.
Yeah, Flory Badunga is physical, and that's going to cause issues. I think, and that's something. Let's look ahead. We'll have a preview before that game comes out, but that's like the first real test of, is this Duke team legit because their 5 is not in foul trouble. And Malik Brown, his role kind of is to be in foul trouble because he's the 5. He's the guy that comes off the bench to wreak havoc defensively. He's going to be aggressive with his hands. And then if he has 3 fouls, so be it. He picks up a 4th with 12 minutes left. So be it. You kind of just sit him until the 8-minute mark. He fouls out again. Okay, Pat, you're in for the rest of the game. So Malik and Pat have different responsibilities when it comes to foul trouble. One is hey, it comes with the territory, defensive-minded center. The other is keep your ass on the court. We need you for offense. So that is
also keep your ass off the ground.
Yeah,
he fell to the ground a lot.
Yeah, he fell as many times as Nick Kaminia did against UCF, and Nick Kaminia had 7 fouls drawn. So every time we were watching a spectrum, he was on the floor, and that is also something that I'm worried about. Is hey, you have 3 fouls, or you have 3 quick fouls, with 15 minutes to go in the second half. Stop getting your hands tangled up with a guy as the loose ball's going to where the ref might call a double foul. Just get out of that situation because there's no win there for Duke. It's just you're playing with fire, and he's gonna learn, and hopefully these next 2 games he will learn more from in-game reps. And I'd like to see him play more than 25 minutes in one of these 2 games because, like I said, he's only played 22, 23. I just want to see if he's durable enough to play 27.
I think you cross that bridge when you come to it.
I know. I agree. If he could play 25 and have 3 fouls, that's great.
I know you want to see it. I think you'll have to correct me if they did this against Western Carolina, but there were maybe only a couple possessions of it. But we saw Malik Brown playing some 4 in Charlotte. We saw them on the court together. It was brief, but there does exist the possibility of Malik Brown playing some at the 4, which
that might happen.
They tried it really early last year, and I'm not sure if I remember the reasoning correctly. I just don't think it worked the way that John wanted it to work. And of course, the last 2 or 3 months of the year, with Malik being off and on injured, they couldn't really do it.
Yeah, that's a good question, because I should have known that, but I don't have that answer for you.
I don't know how much they'll be able to play together, because they're planning on redshirting Sebastian Wilkins, which was the newsiest information that we got on Saturday. So Duke has 3 front court players, and you can make that work. You can certainly matchup dependent. You can get away with some minutes from Nicholas Semenya at the 4 if you need to. I feel like we saw that a little bit in Texas, but your number 3 option at center is a guy that theoretically, and injuries and foul situations aside, is giving you like 33 to 37 minutes a night at the 4. That's a problem. Like, that's going to be something. That's when I talk about the margin for error with this team being smaller than it was last year. Last year, they have 2 centers with Kamen Malawach and Malik Brown, and one of them goes down. Oh, let's just turn to the 5-star at the end of the bench who's barely played all year and didn't have much of a preseason. Lo and behold, he's got great hands, great footwork. He's got a little bit of a mean streak to him, and like, he can actually play and help them win ACC games. This team, like, if you have a magic wand to wave and wish health for the entire season over a couple of guys or a position, it's Duke's 5s.
Yeah, it is. I mean, it's just, again, there will be no answers. Everything's still like a question mark with that unit until the non-con, which is why Shire scheduled the non-conference the way it is. Like, he wants to test his guys, and that's why I didn't view the loss to Kentucky last year as a negative. Like the sky was falling. I'm not gonna view it as a negative. I didn't view it as a negative when they lost to Kansas last year, who obviously didn't even make the tournament. And like, they lose to Kansas again this year, I'm not going to. Did they make the tournament? They didn't make. Hunter Dickinson? You looked at me and you made me second guess myself, but I think they did not make the tournament.
They were a 7 seed. They lost to Arkansas.
Oh, okay. Well, they were borderline, because they went from number 1 to unranked, right?
Yeah, I mean, they did not have a good season based on their expectations. You know, it was Hunter Dickinson, and his tolerance for college basketball had expired after about a month of the season.
Yeah, and so my point being is, like, if Duke struggles against Kansas this year, who lost to UNC, like, will I be worried? Not maybe slightly, but not in terms of like, oh, this season is going to go down the drain, because you're a completely different team in January than you are in November, and Shire's proved that year in and year out as the head coach for Duke. So it's just a learning curve. And so I'm looking forward to the Army and Indiana State. One guy that I want to see play more, but more efficiently is Dame Sarr. Dame Sarr was very good against Texas defensively. Hit a couple of corner threes, catch and shoot threes. Obviously had the missed dunk. And then he struggled a little bit against Western Carolina. He just looked uncomfortable a little bit, like just raw. He looked raw. He was 0-4 from the field, and he probably missed 2 or 3 layups, like kind of borderline gimmicky to borderline, like, a little tough, but a guy at Duke should make, or the guy that plays at Duke should make. And you just tell he's raw with his speed, and he's only going to get better with more game reps. He finished with 2 points on 2 of 5 from the free throw line. He got fouled on a 3, Connor, and the guy, he stepped on the guy's foot when he landed, and so he was down.
Yeah.
So he was down briefly, and that was early in the first half. And I asked him after the game, how was the ankle? And he was a little irritated with how his performance was. He's like, it's good. I was like, all right, well, he's good. He's good to go. So Dame Sarr is good to go. You heard it here first. But speaking of, I want to go back to Malik Brown real quick. I said in the film breakdown, I talked to Malik and I called you today. Talked about Malik Brown, where he had that bullet pass with his one hand, and he had 2 or 3 more in the game that didn't result in assists, but just automatic swings. And I asked him about it. I'm like, hey, when you catch the ball, like you're the only player I've ever watched to where you face up, your first read is deep opposite right away. It's not catch and then go one-on-one with your man or then survey the floor. It is catch, not even survey the floor, automatic. I'm throwing to the corner blindly, the deep corner, because that's where the guy's going to be. And he's like, yeah, like I just know that the defense, that where the defense should be on help side. And so my first read is always that deep corner wing or deep corner guard. And you saw it with the and one for Caden Boozer, where he just throws a one-hand Malik Brown pass and right in the pocket, Caden Boozer finishes for an and one. And he brings so much intangibles to the team. 10 points, 4 rebounds, an assist, a block. And Shire was mad at him, he said post-game, for turning down 2 other threes that he should have shot. One Shire was legit. Shire was furious on with it turned into a charge. The dude had a short closeout on Malik, and Malik hesitated, lowered his shoulder, and it was a charge, and Shire was not happy with it. So I think Malik Brown is going to shoot a lot of threes in practice this week, of just those top of the key threes, because Shire wants him to shoot it. We know that last year, but he was pretty emphatic on that charge call to shoot the damn ball. And Malik's a catch and shoot guy that can, keep a defense honest.
Yeah, I go back to, I was having a conversation with somebody in the media last week, and they couldn't wrap their head around me saying that Malik Brown was a better 3-point shooter than Pat Gongba. And this person said, like, why? Because Malik Brown actually took more than 1 last year. And I was like, because he made 2 at Carolina. Like, everybody remembers different parts of different games, but I mean, late in that game, it wasn't just Caleb Foster making the big hustle plays that kind of helped Duke stay ahead in that one. It was Malik Brown stroking 2 3-pointers, and he's open for those because of everything else on Duke's team last year, but also because he had not shown that he could make those. But was it that game or a previous one where the social media accounts were throwing out the practice clips of Shire saying, like, just take this corner 3?
I think it was that one. I think it was that one.
Yeah. So
I'm not going to say I tweeted that first and then they tweeted after. I'm not going to say that. But it was.
I'm glad you're not saying that.
But no, it was. It was well timed by both of us, because Malik catch and shoot. He's a catch and shoot weapon. A catch and shoot weapon.
And that's what John wants. That's what they want out of their offense. They want to have 5 guys on the court to shoot threes. They don't want 5 Steph Currys. Like, you're not going to see a equal distribution Isaiah Evans taking the same amount of threes in a game as Pat Gongba, but everybody's a threat. It's almost like the football term of having a running quarterback. If on those RPOs it's always just a handoff, your quarterback isn't a threat. But if 1 out of every 4 or 5 RPOs your quarterback pulls it and burns the defense, it's always going to be there in the back of your mind. It's always going to be there on film study. That's something that you have to respect. And so that's where Duke wants to go offensively.
And one other area of concern, I put concern again in quotations, Shire pointed out against Western Carolina that he was not happy with the amount of offensive rebounds they gave up. They gave up 15 to Western, and obviously Texas had a lot. They had 15, yeah. They had 15 offensive rebounds, Western did, and then Texas had a lot too.
18.
Oh, 18. Yeah, sorry. You cut out on my end. Yeah, so Texas had 18, Western had 15. And that's an area where Shire's just, Duke might have to play some baseball. If you played, you would know baseball, that it's a very tough rebounding drill that I had to play in college, to where, hey, it toughens you up. And that is something that Duke might have to play if they get beat on the glass, or 10-plus offensive rebounds by a West Point team who we know is going to be physical, right? I mean, they're West Point. I know from experience playing those dudes, they are strong as hell, and that's something that keep an eye on with Duke. I mean, they had 13 offensive rebounds. Western had 15, and then you have West Point and Indiana State, 2 other opponents that, hey, you got to lock in on that side of the ball. Just because you get defensive stop, just because you hold them to 30% from the field, it should be 25% from the field. Maybe they got second chance points because you didn't box out. And that's something that the coaching staff wants to clean up, even though they won by 40 points. And that's what makes that's what separates a good team to a great team.
Yeah, but looking at the national ranks on KenPom is always fun when it's a week into the season. So you always take these with a grain of salt. But Duke's, I always struggle with how to phrase this one. It's their defensive offensive rebound rate. So it's basically the amount of offensive rebounds they give up versus what's available. They're letting opponents rebound 1 out of every 3 of their misses. It's at 34%, which that's going to be really frustrating if you're John Shire and you're feeling good about where your defense is. I mean, you're making people miss a lot of shots because your positional length is elite, and you don't necessarily have the 7-foot shot blocker that you've had the last 4 out of the last 5 years. It comes down to with Mark Williams, Derek Lively, Kaman Malawach. So 3 of the last 4.
3 out of the last 4.
But you have enough length, you have enough size on the interior, you have enough athleticism with the 2 centers plus Cam Boozer. You're going to make people miss when they get into the lane. It's just going to be a little different than having a Sears Tower Kaman Malawach standing there altering everybody's shot. But if you give up offensive rebounds and let people keep shooting, eventually they're going to go in, and eventually that's going to get you burned. So giving up 34% offensive rebound rate is probably priority number 1 for this team to address right now.
Yeah, and the one thing Western Carolina did well in their loss to Cincinnati, that was also a bye game, was they out-rebounded Cincinnati. They out-rebounded like 37-36, so maybe this is just a very scrappy Western Carolina Catamount team. Who knows? Because they out-rebounded Cincinnati. They had 42 rebounds to Duke's 51, but obviously Duke wants to keep that. Duke wants to win that rebound margin by 20-plus against a bye team. Like, that's what it is. And it's something that we're going to look forward to now tomorrow night, Connor. So I'm going to go into the Duke West Point. It's kind of a preview, but before we get to the preview, I told Connor this, and I'm telling you guys this. Like, this is pretty cool for me because I didn't realize the date when I was doing the research, but this is literally almost 10 years ago to the day I played at West Point for the same reason Duke's playing at West Point. Duke's playing at West Point because of Coach K. I played at West Point versus West Point because my college coach was a West Point graduate, and it was his dream to always bring his team up there for an exhibition game. And the transportation was a slightly different. Duke, flew, and we took a charter bus from Ferrum, Virginia to West Point. And if you look on Google Maps, it says 8.5 hours. That is from Ferrum to West Point. That's a lie because it took us damn near 11 hours because one, our driver drove probably 10 miles under the speed limit. And then 2, we're in the middle of nowhere, Pennsylvania, and they have a bus driver switch, and the other bus driver was 30 minutes, 45 minutes late. So we're standing at a gas station at like 10 p.m. It's cold as hell outside. We finally get another bus driver to come in, and then we drive through like Scranton, Pennsylvania, and we finally get to West Point. And then the next day, we get there probably like 1 a.m. And the next day, though, was our day of like our walkthrough, and we got to tour the campus, and we went into their locker room. Their locker room was named after a former West Point player. He's either a baseball player or a basketball player who was killed in combat. It was a really cool story about him. Went in the dining hall, met a lot of people, didn't know all of their professors are just kind of like adjunct professors where they'll just like drop what they're doing and go to war like on a weekend. It's just insane. That was really cool meeting them. Met our coaches. His best friend, first time they seen each other in a while. He was like a 6'9" sniper. It was crazy. I'm like, this dude is the scariest guy I've ever seen in my life. He looks like a very, very nice guy. And then you're like, oh, what's your background? Oh, sniper? Okay. And so
I would think it's probably not good to be a 6'9" sniper. I think you want those guys shorter.
I know, but I tell you what, he must have been tough because he was crazy. And it was a very nice guy. And we had a great experience, had dinner, overlooking the football field and just talking about stories and stuff. And, you know, it meant a lot to my coach. And so knowing Duke's up there and Coach K, a lot of emotions going into it, I think it's really cool. And I've been a part of so many like national anthems playing and coaching that I still vividly remember like standing on the court across the free throw line extended where you do the national anthem. And that was still like thinking about it, the chills that I had looking into the crowd and just seeing all the men and women like in uniform. And it was a sold out crowd for little fair and by game. And just seeing like so many people, and you know, you could just tell it, the energy was different, and that was something I'll never forget. My matchup for the game, Connor, this guy his name is Kyle Wilson. Kyle Wilson was 6'4", 210. I'm gonna put it in the YouTube here. It's a picture. It's a hilarious picture. One of us has hit the gym 3 times a day for 5 years. The other might have skipped leg day, arm day, you name it, for about 3 years straight. And Kyle Wilson was first team All-Patriot League, and he averaged 16 points a game his senior year. He averaged 16 points a game for his career. The dude is one of 6 players in Patriot League history to score over 2,000 points, and I was his matchup. And I know what you're thinking, J-Man, you got cooked. I didn't. I held him to 15 points, so he was one off his average. That's also probably because he only played 20 minutes because it was a blowout. And so he didn't work up a sweat when I was guarding him, but we lost as bad as Western Carolina did to Duke, to give you the perception. We lost 93-54. Mover blocker was our offense. So we couldn't really, couldn't screen the screener because these West Point guys were just shoving our 6'7" center out of the way because their 6'7" guy was a small forward. And so everything was getting blown up offensively. I did hit a jumper, though. That was all that mattered. I hit one jumper at West Point. I hit a jumper in Pat Kelsey's face at Winthrop. I can die a happy man. Those are like the 2 threes that I hit in exhibition games. But Duke playing at West Point is definitely really cool for me as a fan going to watch it. And also when I watch it tomorrow night, like, damn, like I played there. It's really cool to see. It's going to be really cool to like get those old memories back. And though we were a bye game, to get beat by 1 billion, it was something I'll never forget.
Yeah, and I don't have much to add there. I hope to go to West Point at some point. I'm not sure when the last time Duke football played there, if they've ever played there. Wake has had.
They played there right before you started on the beat. They played there a couple times.
Gotcha. I know Wake was up there in 21 and played a crazy ass 70-56 football game there.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that was nuts. I think it's great Duke is doing this. It's one of those where I don't know if anybody would have thought of this organically, like any of us, I'm saying, would have thought like, well, why doesn't Duke go to West Point and play? But then it's one of those things where when you hear about it and it's like, oh yeah, no shit, they should go there. Like Coach K, the tie-in, he's a graduate. I didn't realize until John said something that he'd be going on the trip with the team. I thought John had some funny remarks in the postgame about like he's never been on a trip with K when he's not, watching film and coaching them. And what's he going to do when he's just kind of like the ambassador and administrator with the team? So that'll be fun. It's a really cool thing that Duke is doing, that Army is doing. And you can kind of forget that there's actually a game that needs to be played. You can get wrapped up in the uniqueness of the trip and the meaning of it.
Yeah,
especially being on Veterans Day too.
Yeah, and those guys are like, those relationships are very, I'll say very personal, but obviously they are. But you know what I mean? Like when my coach saw his old teammate, and it's been a couple of decades, it was just like they saw each other yesterday. Like that really is like the brotherhood, if you will, but like for a way different reason. Like those guys really are with each other through thick and thin. And it was really cool because the head coach at West Point then, Jimmy Allen, he was the head coach there the following year too. And my senior year, he offered my head coach the assistant coaching position literally a month before the season. And my coach Tharp, was just like, I can't, like, I have wife and kids. Like, I can't just get up and leave because of that. And also, like, our season starts, like, it was like October. One of the assistant coaches left, and he called and, hey, would you like to be assistant coach? And that was my coach's dream, was to go coach at West Point, but life kind of got in the way where he couldn't. And so Jimmy ended up having to leave West Point a couple years later. Now he's the head coach at Emory Henry. But what's crazy about this is his assistant coach at Emory Henry is my college coach's son. It's his first year as a college coach. Bill Tharp Jr. He is now at Emory Henry, and he was a student. He was a manager at Wisconsin Milwaukee for the last 4 years. So this is his first year as a college coach, and he's coaching under Jimmy Allen, just like his dad wanted to. But obviously now he's at Emory Henry. So for me personally, it's a great story. The Duke's playing at West Point, and just the personal connections there is really cool. And I think it's going to, those guys, like, whenever I get back to Durham and, like, I interview them before, like, after the Indiana State game or something, I might just bring back up the West Point game because, like, I know how cool it was to play in that arena. So I would like to know theirs, because regardless what the score is going to be, it's going to be a hell of an experience, hell of a time. And yeah, I think to get back to basketball though, like, I would like to see more Dame. That'd be a good game for Dame Sarr to look more comfortable. If he struggles, okay, then bring it to Indiana State. But there's guys on the team that still need to show, get some growth, get some game reps. Darren Harris had 5 points and 3 assists in 23 minutes, I think, against Western. If he can get 8 to 10, I mean, God, the way he shoots the ball, like, every time, I think if he just shoots 4 shots a game, I'm like, he can get 10 points the way that ball looks coming out of his hand. So maybe it's a game where Darren Harris comes off the bench and he's uber aggressive or something, to where he hits 8 or 10 points, and we leave the game like, okay, we got someone with Darren Harris coming off the bench.
Yeah, I was a little surprised his points weren't higher on Saturday, given Isaiah Evans wasn't hitting.
Yeah.
Like, I know one of the things I saw from people after the Texas game was Darren Harris needs to play more than 8 minutes. And it's kind of like, okay, you're not taking Isaiah Evans off the court when he scores 14 points in 4 minutes. You're gonna ride that train, because that can turn into 20-point half for him. That can turn into just, I mean, like we've talked all the time, he's a microwave. So Isaiah going 0 for 5 against Western Carolina was like, okay, well, that's the one that Darren Harris needs to step up and drill a few. And what did you get? Fouled shooting a 3-pointer, so he made 3 free throws?
Yep.
So that's good. But we're at the point where I think we've had more viral Instagram posts about Darren Harris's shoes than he's hit 3-pointers in games this year.
He does have a great shoe game. They said at AC Media Day that he has the best shoe game on the team.
That's awesome. It will mean Duke
it's going to correlate
0 points more than they do.
It's going to correlate. Style points are a thing. It's going to correlate one game where he's going to have some great shoes. The broadcast's going to talk about it, and then Corey Alexander's like, my guy, Darren Harris. I tell you what, Virginia guy, that's my guy. And he's going to have 14 points on 5 of 6. I just got banned.
For those not watching, this is my long, exasperated sigh on the first, I made it through a week not seeing any Corey Alexander on my television screen.
Well, that's the longest drought you'll have the rest of the season. So I hate to break it to you, but it's going to happen night in and night out. But
Great.
Yeah, I think Darren Harris is a good guy to where my player to watch for this game for Duke, this bye game in West Point, to where, let's get some reps, get some shots up. Like, I would love to see him go 3 of 9 just to see that he can shoot damn 9 shots. Like, honestly, I'm telling you, like, sometimes I just want to see the shots go up. So Isaiah was 1 of 8. And, that's something where you want to talk about another question mark before we close up. It's just like the number 2 option. He looked like the clear-cut number 2 option for 4-minute stretch in the first half against Texas. But then it's like the other 36 minutes, it's like, hey, like, we need you to, like, sprinkle in something here and there. And then Pat was a good option.
I was more impressed with Isaiah still scoring in the second half against Texas than I was his spurt in the first half. because we saw that last year in the first half. Like,
That's fair.
we saw that version from Isaiah last year. We know that's going to be there because that's who he is. That's who he was in high school. It's who he is in AAU. That's who he is freshman year at Duke. I was impressed with him moving without the ball on the flare cuts and then diving to the bucket he had one layup on a Cam Boozer assist against Texas. He got fouled a couple times and made free throws.
Yeah, that is actually a good point about also he had that great dunk to end the game on the cut. Yeah. But he 11 free throw attempts in 2 games is really promising to see a guy like Isaiah, who is you pencil him as a catch and shoot guy off that flare screen, but 11 free throws in 2 games is impressive to know that he's going to the rack like that.
You want to guess how many free throws he shot in 36 games last year?
10.
Not that bad.
Oh, I thought you were going to get me. What? How many?
32.
Okay, so yeah,
he averaged less than a free throw a game. Granted, different usage, different role, all
for
that.
Sure.
But he's shot 11 in 2 games.
For sure. Okay, yeah. 11 in 2 games is really promising to know that he's getting to the cup or trying to get to the cup aggressively. So that's something to keep an eye out for as well for the rest of the season. And so, look, this is a short episode because, recap first 2 games and one being Western Carolina and obviously the game tomorrow at West Point will be a really cool story. But once Kansas comes, like the next episode, we'll talk about Duke should be 4-0 going into the next episode, and we'll preview Kansas. Yeah, the next basketball episode. And the next and we'll be previewing Kansas, where I'll have a deep dive with like film stuff already. So don't miss that because there's a lot of film to talk about with Darren Peterson and the rest of Kansas, and obviously what Duke will be doing in 4 games. So, Connor, I appreciate it as always, and I'll see you guys next week.